Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. President Trump has said Russia and Ukraine will start ceasefire negotiations immediately after he held a 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin. The Russian leader described the conversation as constructive. Mr. Trump said he thought Mr. Putin had had enough and wanted peace. Here's our North America correspondent, Gary O'Donoghue.
The 2-hour phone call produced plenty of warm words, but little by way of concrete commitments. So no 30-day ceasefire at this stage. No announcement of a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. No new deadlines. No indication of the promised negotiations being at the highest level. And no indication that Russia is prepared to make any concessions to its long-standing demands. Washington has, for some time now, been more than hinting that its patience is wearing out and that the administration could simply walk away from the situation.
The United Nations humanitarian chief says the first delivery of aid into Gaza for 11 weeks is a drop in the ocean. Tom Fletcher welcomed Israel's decision to ease its blockade of the territory, but said more supplies were urgently needed. He said 9 UN aid trucks had been cleared for entry on Monday. Steve Dorsey from the International Committee of the Red Cross says this is completely inadequate.
At the height of the ceasefire a few months ago, we were getting 600 trucks of humanitarian supplies and aid every day, and that was still insufficient. And we need, beyond just food and basic medical supplies, we also need antibiotics and drugs for anesthesia. At our field hospital alone in Rafah this month, we've performed over 3,200 surgeries. Most of them are from wounds sustained by explosions and gunshots.
The US Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration, for now, to end deportation protections for nearly 350,000 Venezuelan immigrants. It's the latest round in a legal battle over the cancellation of a decades-old policy shielding migrants from crisis-hit countries. Jacob Evans has more details.
The US government can issue a temporary protected status, or TPS, to foreign citizens who can't return to their home countries due to circumstances like war or natural disasters. This has been granted to scores of Venezuelans and was extended by Joe Biden shortly before he left the White House. But in a brief, unsigned order with no explanation, America's top court has allowed the Trump administration to strip this legal protection. It potentially opens the door for mass deportations.
The first group of migrants who agreed to the Trump administration's self-deportation program have been flown to Honduras and Colombia. Each of the 64 people accepted a payment of $1,000 to leave the United States. You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Donald Trump has signed a bill that makes it illegal to post intimate images online without consent. The Take It Down Act criminalises the practice known as revenge porn, whether the material is real or generated by artificial intelligence. The legislation says images must be removed from online platforms within 48 hours. One of the leading figures in Russian ballet, Yuri Grigorovich, has died. He was 98. Grigorovich was the artistic director of Moscow's legendary Bolshoi Ballet from the mid-60s to the mid-90s and boosted its reputation of one of the world's best dance companies. Sophie Glass-Ryan reports.
Born in the Soviet city of Leningrad, a decade after the Bolshevik Revolution, Grigorovich had a career spanning 80 years as a dancer and choreographer. As artistic director of the Bolshoi Ballet, he cemented his reputation by staging productions of Spartacus, Swan Lake, and in particular The Stoneflower. Grigorovich was widely praised for revitalising male dance. He introduced more roles for men in his productions, ones which required exceptional strength and technique.
An actors' union in the United States is suing the developer of the video game Fortnite for using AI to replicate the voice of the Star Wars character Darth Vader. Epic Games said it had permission from the family of the late actor James Earl Jones, who voiced the villain in the films. However, the union said this use of artificial intelligence had replaced the work of humans. A bust of the American singer Jim Morrison that was stolen from his gravesite in Paris 37 years ago has been found. French police made the chance discovery during a search linked to a fraud case. The sculpture of the Doors frontman was placed on his headstone in 1981, 10 years after his sudden death in the French capital at the age of 27. That's the latest world news from the BBC.